Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone. And this today is our first stream on visualization. So not too much about file formats, although it's related. And yeah, let me share my screen. This is based on an old workshop that I did on Inkscape. But to be honest, I still doing a lot of Inkscape. I was doing a illustration for Inkscape for a few minutes ago, and I'm wearing my TasBOT T-shirt, which I did for SVGQ many years ago. So official TasBOT T-shirt that I did with Dwango AC, and it was drawn on Inkscape. So if you're not familiar, I have a repository with a lot of pictures and diagrams, github.com/kokami/pics, and maybe you're familiar with the binary posters, like posters for a lot of file formats. I mean, lots, okay, a few hundreds or whatever, like OneNote. I mean, so these ones are automatically generated to SVG. Some are hand-drawn. Let's take a hand-drawn one, which is specific structure. And some are quite famous. The PE 101. Yeah, I did it. When was that? I think in 2011, therefore 14 years ago. So maybe you've seen it. Maybe you don't know that I did, for example, Arabic version, which was interestingly challenging. And a lot of other language. I remember the Korean to be quite compact in width. And I think the Polish was super wide in text, or was it the Russian? I mean, the Polish doesn't have a PDF version. Okay, let's see if it displays correctly in GitHub viewer. Okay, doesn't work. I mean, too slow. Let's see, Russian version. Yes, that's a wide title. My Cyrillic is not good enough today. Yeah, so I'm drawing stuff. I'm not just drawing posters. I'm also drawing all kinds of illustrations. And now you can see that the T-shirt I'm wearing is based on this thing, on the robot. So this is done in Inkscape, and we'll see why it's interesting. Why? I mean, to be honest, it was 14 years ago. I was like, hey, I want to do kind of nice visual for P file formats. How do I do? Which software exists? Okay, let's do. And it took me like a month from scratch. I have no. So disclaimer: I have no graphical background. I have no guru or anything. I have a few books, of course, and a few references, but that's about it. I didn't follow the standard path, which maybe makes it more approachable the way I do it. There's a French version, of course, which for the only one I didn't need a translator for décortiquer. Okay, pourquoi pas? Yeah, so graphics, and so this is me, and so basically I've been drawing for years. So now let's actually let's see this in full screen. An introduction to Inkscape. Now you have the URL, and can we zoom? Okay, maybe that's gone slightly better. Okay, it doesn't work. Okay, so I draw stuff, and I don't do Krita anymore. I do some GIMP, but most of the stuff I do is with Inkscape. And yeah, so I do different kinds of stuff, file formats, whatever, visualization, also visuals in POC or GTFO, which we will see. So I have no graphical background. Use your own judgment, create your own style, and your brain interprets a lot of things. So sometimes you think you have a great idea, it doesn't work out. Sometimes it's by coincidence that suddenly it looks good. And just try something new. If it looks better, keep it. If not, revert. Yeah, that's my basic algorithm. Why Inkscape? So Inkscape is free and open source. I use it on all three platforms. And the good thing with Inkscape is it's limited to the SVG file format. So it's vector XML format, which makes it, you can generate it with JavaScript. So here, let's see, just a small page, web page. Yeah, just pure SVG from JS. That's small JavaScript, and we'll see that it's so there. This thing is now an SVG. I hope you can see correctly. This thing is now an SVG, and the source is just JavaScript to say, hey, create an SVG, and here are the elements. So basically, you can generate SVG from JavaScript, from Python, type it by hand, and so on. Then it stays vector, but in a bit of similar way as it is PDF. Therefore, it's good that you can go back and forth from and to PDF quite easily. And by limiting itself to SVG, you make sure that Inkscape is not importing exporting SVG. It is SVG. I mean, there's almost, so that's the good thing, right? It's not lost if Inkscape stop existing. It's reusable by other stuff, and so on and so on. So SVG is vector, so it's like 2 points and not pixels, like in GIMP it would be. I mean, of course you can have you can store raster images in a SVG document, but Inkscape will not be the tool to edit that. And the good thing is that you can always, since it's XML, you can always edit it by hand, modify with the program, even search and replace. And with a lot of graphical software, well, you can't. You don't have an easy, instant way to remodify, pre-process whatever what you did. So this is great, and this is also great for learning. You can like draw something in Inkscape, and yeah, this is and then you can see the changes that happens and so on. So let's see small. And the thing is, again, it's you can draw let's just do that in a visual way. Okay, Inkscape is loading. Up. So I won't argue if Inkscape is not the best software over for SVG or whatever. This is not the point here. The point is that you can it's just available. It's just using the standard of SVG. And the thing is, you can take your point. You can take steps. It's not like you have like a second chance. You can even draw very slowly initially. Take your time. So I think the learning curve makes it super nice because you can. Okay, so let's change that, and this is probably what I was doing earlier. Let's see, stroke style up, and now if we make all these nodes, if we make all these nodes smooth, now we can already. Then we can move stuff around and take your time. And that's a good thing, right? It makes it super intuitive to go slowly. You can always modify something. You can, initially you can take your time. It's not like, you draw, you need to cancel and retry and so on. And again, you always have a viewer, an internal viewer where you can modify the stuff, change the coordinates or whatever. So it makes it of drawings that you can program, that you can understand as a developer, that you can take your time with, you can easily undo, you can see the impact. It's very nice to learn. It's not like suddenly you have to destroy your paper for every drawing. You can always, like do something, of course, cancel. But, it's like, it's very unique in the way of the product for the speed you can progress initially, So, and no need of special hardware, whatever. And you can, for example, so those examples are available on my GitHub. So when you actually, this is the Laughing Man. When was it? Appleseed, or what was it? Or it was from what was the manga? Oh, I don't remember. Laughing Man. What's the Laughing Man? Ghost in the shell, of course. So, uh, and this is XML. This is XML, and the text is still text. So the text is still text. You can still modify stuff, and even text on a curve like this, you can still modify stuff. And you can, same for Clippy. I mean, this is because I did it by hand, but again, you can clearly see which element you have. It looks like you have no idea. So it's there. There are very few formats of graphical stuff that you can reuse, that you can interact with the browser, you can interact with any software, you can interact with the program, that is like self-contained, and that enables to to for creativity. So for me, it was a bit of an obvious choice. Maybe there are better SVG editors out there, but just Inkscape is very good, and I've been using it now for 14 years. And again, you can then export that to PDF. It will be still quite lightweight. There are exceptions. For example, here you see there's a shadow. The shadow will be a blur, and this kind of blur cannot be rendered in PDF. So basically, there are some stuff that you cannot, that will be lost with PDF, but most of the other things will be kept exactly as is. And back and forth from PDF, you can also import PDFs in SVG and so on. So this is why it's a very good you can also edit it, you can also generate them, and you can, of course, generate your SVG with whatever library, even Python or your own JavaScript. So, as I shown earlier, Inkscape does have an internal XML editor, Control-Shift-X, and enables you to modify, to add new stuff, to operate at a text level of the SVG, which is very good to learn how it's done. Another thing that is very nice is that you can just take, these are three actual examples that I learned from. And this is quite great because you can download an SVG online. All these three images are SVG. And then you can just edit them. You can just learn from them. And this is from Blinry, right? And now you can actually see how he made it, and how each element, you see this, you can see which you can still edit, you can cancel, and yeah. So for this one, this diagram is quite simple, but if you wanted to update it or apply a style, then yeah, it's there. The fact that this is SVG, and even if it was just vector as a PNG, as a PDF, it would work. Now let's look. The LLVM logo, the dragon, has a lot of gradients, and maybe because it will be a bit heavy on the machine, but still you can learn. You can. Oh, it's taking its time. Okay, it's a bit slow. And this is why, so you will see some blue arrows, which when you point at something means that is the gradients. And now you can see that I can modify the gradients by, interactively. This is a graphic, this is a illustration, but it's still alive, as in you can modify. You have this view mode, display mode here, outline and so on, which make it the rendering easier by not showing all the gradients. And now you can see all the elements, including the hidden ones. And of course, again, you can all modify all of them, because again, it's SVG, it's XML and so on. So it's really nice that you can learn from actually beautiful stuff. I remember also studying in detail this beautiful PSP rendition that was from Wikipedia, uploaded to Wikipedia. Where is it? PSP here, a common Wikimedia file. Wikipedia. So this is an actual SVG, complete SVG image, and here is it in outline. I just loaded it, and now you can see there are very subtle gradients everywhere. This is the gradient. So you see, you will modify the colors. I mean, again, it's alive. It's beautifully done, this one. And yeah, you can study from that. And this is really good. It's like if you look at Photoshop, you won't maybe have so many things that you can edit, understand from a file perspective, modify from the outside, and so on. So really, for me, yeah, I never stopped using Inkscape ever since. Maybe I was lucky for my first try, but yeah, okay. Let's go back. And so basically, very nice to learn from Inkscape itself and other stuff. And Inkscape is like PDF. You have all these features that I use myself in Poker GTF4 and other publications. So, for example, here you have a JPEG images, but the mask is pure vector. So basically, even if it's an old quality image, the mask for transparency is completely vector, so no smoothing problem. There can be you can have some actual images, vector images, when you don't have the right font. Then you could have actual pure text in the back, or it's very good to exchange and communicate with PDF and generate your own PDF from SVG. So really good. PDF and SVG go well together. The only thing is that how can I say? Of course, fonts will not be embedded in PDF in SVG, and that's a mistake that people often do. So this is another example that I did. I took the original documentation, then I import the official documentation to Inkscape, started to modify it, and just export it to PDF again and add it to Poker GTF4. The GUI of Inkscape. So you have the tools on the side, very classic stuff. Then you have the toolbar that changes with every tool that you use. There are lots of tools that I don't use, by the way. And then there will be something that is called a snap bar, which is where you will, when you draw something, if you will actually snap to some control or not. So basically, it's by here. The snap bar is here. Inkscape, you have the right to snap. Haha. See, suddenly it says custom node to smooth node. So it snapped my control to something else, to another node. And here you can see, when you click an object, you can see the nodes that you can still modify, So again, I would say that hacking, as in experimenting with existing SVG or PDF diagrams, illustrations, is a very good way to learn drawing with Inkscape. So opacity, the layers. So I don't use much. The snap bar has changed since I did these diagrams, but not so important in the beginning. The important thing I think is that I don't use most tools, like the 3D things. No, I never use it. So basically, I just draw stuff myself. So drawing is here, and then yeah, so it's a very standard way of drawing vector. So you draw each point, and if you just press like this, it will do cusp points, which be like straight angles. But if instead you press and then you pull, it will start to smooth things. And each time you pull, and the thing is, you can always go back, pressing backspace to the previous node. And remember that if it's not perfect, not only you can always modify anything later, like, okay, you moving an object, then you select and you change a node to smooth. So this is the style of corner, smooth, symmetric, and auto smooth. So a smooth one is like this, and you see the immediate change. You can undo, and then you can change the stuff, but it's smooth. But yeah, so now if I turn it, you see that it's smooth. It will never be an angle anymore if it's with a square, like a smooth node. You have to make it smooth again if you want it to have an angle. But you can always change, you can always update. This is why it's very step-by-step self-learning aspect of drawing, very slowly, with your own style, with your own limits initially. So really good. An interesting thing is that, if I'm not wrong, let's see. So now I selected this object. And this object, come on. Oh, it's an ellipse. Oh, I'm wrong. Oh, okay, interesting. It's an ellipse. Oh, okay. Because if I, so this is an ellipse. You see what I mean? I selected this, and in the viewer, you see that it's an ellipse. The type is an ellipse, and with the round, the radius, and the coordinates. Okay. But if I recall correctly, if you draw an ellipse with, oh no, okay, okay, I'm mistaken. Okay, sorry, just I'm mistaken. So initially, it is an ellipse. So basically, it's only defined by an angle and dimensions of both sides. Now, a very important thing is that everything can be converted to a path. So it is still an ellipse, two radius, and the angle, and so on. And but then you can convert an object to a path, and then it will have the same shape, but suddenly it will be a pure path, and a pure path is 4 nodes. So then now it doesn't have this angle property, and now it's like 4 nodes. It used to be, look, it took the same shape of an ellipse, but now it has lost this property. This is something important to think to understand. So for example, if you type something, what will be my font? Hello everyone. Okay, let's make it a bit more visual. I mean, easier to read. Now this is pure text. So if you see, this is a text, and if we collapse this element, we will see that it's hello everyone. You know, it's like the text is still text. And if you just, let me duplicate it, and now if you do object to path again, then now it's a bunch of vector. So now it's not a text anymore. It's the exact same representation, but it has completely changed. It's not text anymore. It doesn't require font, and then you can edit everything, but you cannot go back to what it was before. So in this case, I advise that if you are, for example, based on some text, make a duplicate in your own copy of the file if you want to change something later, you know, just for experimentation. Question. So, question: a few days ago, PDF has a huge amount of graphic capabilities. Does SVG has all of them? No, it doesn't have all of them. As far as I know, I'm not sure if it has all the color spaces and whatever, but still, it has most of them. So, yeah. So, uh, um, text on a path, gradients, all this is native in SVG2. So, and masking and clipping, this is in SVG as well. SVG, like PDF, can have a genuine JPEG, like the same the same format initially. It also can embed pure lossless data. Um, Actually, it embeds PNG, if I recall correctly, unlike PDF. So yes, most graphical capabilities that we care of for standard illustration, I would say, because again, PDF can be like pretty crazy, but still, most SVG has most of the stuff of PDF for graphical stuff. At least it's very rare that I don't have such a limitation. Another thing is that that we should mention maybe later is that when you draw something and you have uh, Inkscape has this very specific path that, you know, so what is this? That's a spiral line. So imagine that I am bending a piece of metal following these nodes. So the red path doesn't mean sense. It's calculating something that would follow the constraint of bending physically something. So the path, the what is rendered is purely mathematical, but when it's saved as SVG, it's still Inkscape saves its part, its specific part. It is not a SVG object, but then the rendering itself is stored as pure SVG element. So this a bit of, there are a few things that Inkscape adds and that are not specific to SVG, like the stars thing, for example. It's just a path, and but in the idea of Inkscape, it has so the Sodipodi and Inkscape stuff is specific to Inkscape, but then you will have the path, the D, the D property value, which is a pure SVG description of this path, of the path that you see. So most SVG, Inkscape is mostly pure SVG. There are a few tiny differences, but not so many. And again, there is mostly SVG and PDF are mostly the same from a graphical perspective, which is why it's so nice to use. It's not entirely true, but yeah, you can walk around the limitations, So again, these are different. All of these default objects have their own. Oh yeah, you can see that a star can be rendered as a path and so on. Even what is that? Spiral doesn't exist genuinely in SVG. Okay, the control bar, I mentioned that before. Small things, small tricks. Let's also, sorry, Linry, let's change to another document. So when you have very tiny things to look at, so for example, when you draw something, so you always have a fill and a stroke, two colors for each property, for each object. You select with shift for the stroke and with a normal click, no shift for the fill. And now if I have this element here clicked, if I resize, see what I mean? It tried to make the stroke bigger, but then it realized that I didn't have this click, so it undo it. See what I mean? It's just saying, hey, do you want me to zoom in the stroke size too? And see, nope, it doesn't. But if now I click this here, now it will actually keep it. Now another thing is that this is a square with rounded angles, and this is the same. Do I want the angles to follow the rounding or not? Do I want them to follow the geometry or just stay the same? See what I mean? It's resizing to something else, and then it realizes I didn't get this thing click, and tuck. Say for gradients, let's put a gradient. Let's put a gradient, and now if I'm moving the object, I'll duplicate so that it's more visual. Now I have twice the same gradient, and if I move, does the gradient follow or not? So very small stuff, but if you in the past, I remember not understanding why the gradients wasn't following, and then I was just basically copy pasting the gradient everywhere. Yes, small mistakes of small beginner's mistake, no problem. Okay, so as I mentioned, you have objects first, and then you can also modify each node. So when you have such a pattern, so let's put a pattern. If you modify the object, then the pattern will, you see what I mean? It will not move because you just modify the geometry of the object, but the pattern is the same. It shouldn't be deformed. But if instead you resize the object, so here it's the same. It's because I didn't click the right thing. Where is it? Yeah, move pattern, fill or stroke along with the object. And if I click it, then it's so another, a bit like earlier. If you wanted it to just be the same always, don't forget to unclick this, and now you can resize your stuff. But you see that initially it's trying to should I resize that? Oh, it's not clicked. So instead, just put the old pattern. And now it's pretty impressive that you can even edit the pattern directly visually from the editor. That didn't happen before. You can even rotate it. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, lots of cool stuff nowadays in Inkscape, all for free. Great software. Okay, So I mentioned that drawing order. So drawing orders, you will have objects will appear on top of each other. And you can, with page down or page up, you can modify them, go underneath each other, up, home, and bottom the same. You can also, if you display the layers, change the order of the objects, or you can even do that, of course, at XML level. Okay, now I did a mistake because I put it inside, and now let's put it back up there, up again. So you see, you can edit things in many ways, either interactively, either via the dialogue, either with the keys, either via XML, very powerful. Can anything be used as a pattern? Of course, you can you can create your own pattern, and you can, let's see, and you can even say, hey, there is now a very good pattern tool. Let me So basically you can define objects that will be a pattern itself, and yeah, that's super powerful. Let me remember. It's really nice, so sometimes some of my graphics I just made the pattern, and then there you go, especially because you can of course take the default pattern, and you can, as you saw, edit them live. So this is the pattern dialog. The pattern dialog nowadays is pretty awesome, and there are a lot of things. All patterns. Oh, I think there was another form of this dialog. This is weird. I don't remember why to make it very different. Color patterns and whatever. And again, you could still modify it. And then you can say, turn this object to pattern. Oh, yeah. So this is, but I remember there's a new dialog. So let's try this. And now if I do this, and maybe I will group them, Control G, and where is it? Pattern, object to pattern. Okay. And now let's see. I created a pattern. You can see. Can you see? Oh yeah. And now, do I have my pattern? Why is not visible? Okay, because it's because my file is not big enough. Oh, okay. So my pattern is huge. Okay, that's why. Okay, let's make the pattern smaller. Okay, it's not visible because the pattern is huge. Let's make it smaller. I'm live resizing my pattern. And now I created, as you saw, I just selected a few objects. I said pattern to object, and now I have created my own pattern that I can, it's just if that's, so, and again, I don't, okay, let's see if I modify that live. Oh, now it's not an object anymore. Now it's a pattern. That's true. I cannot modify it anymore. So this is why it's good to keep the object and also copy the object as a pattern. But maybe I can still go back and pattern to objects. Oh yeah, something happened. Now let's rotate this, or maybe let's rotate this inside and inside. And now pattern, where is it? Object, pattern, object to pattern again, because my object changed. And now this one maybe. And again, for some reason it's huge, maybe because my page is very small. And now I have my object with my new pattern. Yeah, it's great. And you can get that programmatically. So that's like super nice. You can have to be honest, where do I have some? Okay, so it's not a pattern, but what if I show let's take a small one. Master board recall. Yes. These things, which I call the pills, because they look a bit like medicine, Dr. Mario, they are just objects that repeat themselves, so you can add them programmatically. It's not a pattern in this case, but yeah, it's a very powerful thing. I'm just trying to see if I created some patterns. some notable patterns. I don't remember now. Maybe I will see. So pattern in a pattern. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty powerful. You can still edit stuff, and again, everything is there. So patterns end up in the def file, not in the part file, but you see that you can still edit them. It's a group or made of 3 rectangles, and so on. And there is a transformation, I guess. Yes, indeed, there is a rotate 30 transformation on this for the pattern. So yeah, very, very powerful. But there is, I mean, I don't know, but sometimes there was some minor problems when the pattern didn't look perfect with some PDF viewers, but just I'll let you experiment on that. So, okay. Oh yeah, I will not cover that too much. I mean, I think I covered that already. Transformation handles, I already covered that kind of before. You can always modify the handles of stuff that you created, except that now it's not an object anymore, right? It's a pattern. So it's like, oh, I can, okay. Oh no, but yeah, I cannot edit because it's seen as a pattern. Okay. Useful to center objects. Yes, so use the snap bar when you want to align stuff easily, or you also have an interesting align dialog. Where is it? I know the shortcut, Control Shift A. So when you want to align different objects to each other, whether you want to align nodes or you want to align objects. Grouping. So when you group objects, they will move all together when you resize the group. So let's create a group, and now if I resize the group, everything will move following each other, but you can still select things inside the group. Or move within the group. And it's still, again, a group of 2 rectangles, and one of them has a transformation, you know? And you can then apply a transformation on that group. Oh, okay, for some reason it doesn't want me to. Did I enter the group? Exit group. Okay. When you are in a group, you can also do enter group, and then suddenly all the operation will be within that group, which will make selecting and stuff and changing things easier. And then to make Inkscape say stop working only inside that group, you say exit group. Or if you want, if you enter group and then you add something, it will be added to the group. And I exit group and see. Oh, sorry. If I now exited group, I created something, but now the object I created when I was entered the group is a part of the group. But again, being in a group just means being inside the XML. Again, it's sometimes I don't know if Inkscape is a drawing software or a programmation visual renderer, you know. So yeah, that's for groups. And you can, of course, you can apply groups. You can apply transformation on the whole group. And an interesting thing is that so you can duplicate objects, and duplicate with Control D is just like Control C, Control V. But you can also clone an object, and a clone looks the same, but it's just a clone, which means, so let's make several clones. And now if I rotate this one, you see that the others are following some transformation. But you can rotate the clone, but then you see what's happening. And another thing that you can do is that where is it? If you go to the properties and you click this question mark, it's not a Mario bonus. It's like the default object will not have any color, but then the clones can have their own color. So basically, each clone, even though they are still just clone, can still have a pattern or something, but they are still clones. So it's actually good when you just want to work with an object, particular object. And for example, there is this dialogue. Where is it? Where you can maybe, for example, create clones with a specific pattern. So like you want them to repeat, and then but you still only have one original object that you can modify. Where is it? Align and distribute, maybe transform. No, transform is when you want to apply the same transformation to, like, zoom of this percentage or whatever to a few objects. Where is the clone thing? I can't. Yeah, well, you get the idea. I'm not sure now. There was a. I mean, I hope it's not gone in this version. But basically, you could create like a grid of clone, and then you could easily apply transformation to each of them. I'm just looking for stuff, but yeah, okay. Okay. Questions. There are instances then. Yes, instances. The clones are instances of the file and of the original element. And sometimes you can even get the clone to translate with the original element. And now you see that an ellipse is an ellipse object, and a clone, an instance, is a use element, and only doesn't have the redefinition of everything. Yes, PDF, SVG, Inkscape, all of them are basically programmable graphics rendering system. Yes, but it's even easier because it's not so obvious that PDF is such a system, while SVG being XML, you can even apply XSLT transformation to an SVG if you just want to apply some specific effects, SVG. And you can also render SVGs in the browser. It's a bit different, but still, it's a great tool for a lot of stuff. And you can also have JavaScript in interaction with SVG. So yeah, it's a very good ecosystem, very interesting ecosystem altogether. So grouping, okay, that I covered. Another example that I did, you can, for example, take one of my archive of my drawing in Poker GTFO. You import, you select the page, you ungroup, and then you isolate what you want, and then you can preserve it just as a PDF. That's something you could do with any PDF. Some stuff might be broken, but sometimes it will just work perfectly. Okay, that I already covered. Make a segment, filling and stroke. Object to path, I covered that too. Text being text, and text being, once text is transformed to a path, it's not text anymore. You can transform it further, but it's not text anymore, so you cannot revert. So my advice, keep a copy of the original. It will definitely help. Okay, when you want to type some text, so for example, you want to shadow a text shadow, you just, okay, so let's see, hello, let's change that font. I still don't know why the font is so ugly by default on my version of Inkscape. Okay, and now it's the same. I will make a clone, and just below, and again I will make another clone. Okay, and now you know the usual trick, question mark color, and the other one below. Now you have a fake shadow. Of course, you could do something more, but you can still modify the text. And of course, you could, like, you get the idea by now. So a few examples in the wild that I saw of my own diagram being shared without the correct font. So basically, they didn't even use a monospace. They rendered the file without even having the right monospace font. So the hex was completely fucked up. Text with the font. Oh, this is the same font I have, Amiga font. And yeah, if you don't have the font on your system, then it will revert to a default font. So either you share the font, either you turn the text into path, but then you cannot have text properties anymore. Either you expect people to extract font.pdf, which is not trivial. So that's, I already kind of covered it earlier. Like you take every step slowly, and then you modify each what's called handles around each node. That's I showed earlier a bit. Auto tracing, there is auto tracing in Inkscape, but be careful that it might do some work, but it might also work very badly. So let's see. So you could convert that, but it might become super ugly. This is a trace bitmap, and then you have some options. Then it also has multicolor availability, but it might create something that works, but we will see it might have an incredible amount of nodes. See what I mean? It created a lot of so I let you experiment with that, but sometimes, especially if you want to print, when you will print and render this, it will be extremely slow, while and heavy for the printing, for the PDF and so on. While if you were just doing a few points, you might be able to do something that is good enough in a couple of kilobytes. Of course, I'm just, but again, remember how many. Oh yeah, the curve looks weird because I'm still in line this part. So what I want to say is, if you want something that prints easily, and especially, the goal here is that you have all these extreme this tiny aberration, lossy aberration that turn into small elements that are not even interesting visually. This is not exactly what you want to impress, to store. Let me check. There was this tracing that I did. Old man yell at cloud. You know this picture probably, and I redrew it. I redrew it as a SVG. Now it's extremely lightweight. The file is only 6 kilobytes, and the PNG, because I only have a few colors, is also very small because it's a paletted PNG. So it's like it's a PNG with no artifact. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but if you zoom, you will have one yellow. This is just a one yellow, one blue, one wine white. So this is very good to make something extremely lightweight in a format when you redraw, when you trace stuff manually. And in this case, it's not, especially not from a video image or from a lossy image. The auto tracing will be just ugly. I mean, it might work, but it's not that difficult. Questions? No questions? Okay. So auto tracing is there, exists, but yeah, make sure sometimes it's just easier it works very well for very simple things. But this is a redrawing that I did of Sonic the Hedgehog title, and if you just use one of the function, then suddenly it can create some crazy stuff like here, 39 nodes for a single pixel for a square, right? That's a bit too much. This file was huge, like thousands of nodes for the drawing, and neither was like really beautiful. But yeah, of course, when it's your own creation, it takes longer time, but it can be nice. Okay. Fonts, they are sometimes you can just you can easily retrace a font picture, and you can get the font image. So you get a logo, you use a tool to identify the font. Now you have the image of the actual font, and then you trace that and you apply the right color. This is a trick that's makes mimicking some logos very easy. Now, let's mimic one of my posters. I prepared some data, and you select again, these slides are public, right? So feel free to do it yourself if you want. So then you will just text tool, then you select a monospace font. You make sure the parameters are a bit reset. I mean, if you just install Inkscape, shouldn't be a problem. and then you put your snippets, all these snippets separately. You prepare the text to be pasted, and then, because if you keep the same font, then things will align themselves properly, so it makes it very easy. But then the only thing is that the drawing tool, when you draw with control being pressed, you will only draw at some angles, and you will avoid like drawing any kind of weirdness that could happen if you actually don't press control and this kind of thing. So you can draw the frame pressing control, then you align the node. So if you want, what I wanted to, for example, let's do an angle, and now how do I align those two? Here I used the node selection tool. I select the two nodes. I go to the align. So the align, I know the shortcut, Control Shift A. I don't know where the align and distribute, Shift Control A. And now you say align to the vertically to the last one selected, and you saw that the two nodes align themselves. So basically now they have exactly the same coordinates. Of course, you could still do that at XML level if you wanted, but yeah, not maybe sometimes it's not. It's okay to use the interface. No questions. Okay. So yeah, or another solution is if you have the ruler visible, you can pull a guide. So pulling a guide is you press the button on the ruler, you move your cursor out, and then nothing will happen. But if you turn snapping on here, the magnet, then the guide will snap to the node. And now if you select, if with the node selection tool, you select that node, and you move this node horizontally. So to move horizontally or vertically, you press control. If you don't press control, you can move freely. But if you press control at the same time, you only move either internal, vertically or horizontally. And now you can move it horizontally. And if you're still in snap mode, it will snap to the guide. And when you're done with the guide, well, you can still move it to another thing. See, they are not perfectly aligned here. Now they are. And when you're done with the guide, either you move over here and you press delete, but be careful that you might delete an object, or you move the guide back to the ruler. You can also rotate guides. So the guides have an origin. And when you press shift, you see that I turn into rotating mode. And now I can even have angle guides. So if I want the same angle here to snap to that one, now I can select my object. Oh, by the way, you can always continue an object, select the last node, draw, click the last node, and now you can continue the object. And now I even close the object. So I had an object. Oh, and now I want to close it actually. That's done. So now I have the same angle and I continue the object. The same stuff. If I click 2 on the path, it will select the two nodes. And if I do break, break path, it will reopen the path. So you can always edit. If you select two nodes, you press insert or this button one. What button is it? Oh, this one. It will create a node in the middle. You can always edit stuff. There are plenty of objects, so that it's never, oh shit, I have to restart from scratch. You can always edit, simplify. It's really good. It's a really good feeling. There is comment from Vincent. There is also the coordinates at the top to manually copy paste. Yeah, you can too. You can do that too. But to be honest, it's a bit clumsy. But yeah, that's a possibility too. Or you can go in the XML editor again. Yes, good. That's true. But that's the thing, right? You always have like many ways to do the same thing. And nothing is lost, as in you can still rework on you want to add a new node, you want to add more and more nodes, but you want to delete the center one, and it's really, or one thing, you click two nodes and now I duplicate the node Now what happens? I duplicated node so in place. So now I make a square. And now I want another thing. And you can also, a very nice thing is that you can, of course, move with the keyboard, which is very handy, or you can put a grid. And you can, of course, change the parameters of the grid, and you can make stuff step to grid. So it's a very good, there are a lot of options, and yeah, a lot of possibilities. So guides, deleting guides, selecting stuff, aligning stuff, and then the color stuff. Okay, either you go with a script outside, or you generate the SVG from in your browser already. There are different possibilities, Inserting nodes, that I showed earlier. Duplicate, remove selection, select again, move up. Yeah. Cut the segments. It's definitely worth trying all these little node modification. And also, Inkscape has a very good help. Keys, key and mouse reference. Really, really good. If it loads. Does it load? It really has all the shortcuts, and yeah, it's definitely. I learned a lot of commands by actually going through this list. Oh, I didn't know that was possible. That's super cool. So which is why nowadays I don't know sometimes where's the dialogue for something, because I just know the shortcut. So from highlighted code, okay, if you want to beautify code, you can use external stuff or your own. As I mentioned, the key and mouse reference is very good and definitely helped me to understand some stuff. Filters are nice to add a few effects, but these effects cannot be exported to PDF, and Inkscape tends to crash quite easily with them. That's splines, those curves that I mentioned earlier that are always very smooth, pretty interesting to work with. Applying patterns to a path, if you want to apply something that will change with the path. It's a style effect that you might want, but it's easy. It's something that will not necessarily be native to pure SVG, so that you will lose once you convert it to PDF and so on. So it will stay as a pure SVG thing. So any questions, any suggestions, any whatever? I'm looking. No questions, people? This is a great drawing, and this is pure SVG too. It's pretty nice. No questions, everyone. Okay, so thanks for your attention, I guess. And yeah, see you next time. Thanks for your attention. Bye-bye. Almost an hour. Wow. See you next stream. Are you going to have a few episodes on file formats? What do you mean, episodes on file formats? Yeah, well, I'm going to do more episodes on file formats, of course. See you.